Welcome to Tokyo. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about the list and procedure. If you're bringing in prescription and over-the-counter medicines into Japan, that medicine that you're bringing in might not be legal. But we're going to discuss all of this. I got a ton of questions from yesterday's live stream where I talked about the medicine shortages that are here in Japan and why you might want to bring your own with you in case you do catch a cold or flu. We checked at the pharmacy yesterday and we did see that they resupplied some of the cold and flu medications, but it's still not enough. And I asked them, when is the next order coming in? When this runs out, and they're not sure on that, but they're doing their best to try to resupply what is no longer going to be on the shelves, probably at the end of tomorrow. A lot of people are sick here in Tokyo right now. But if you're coming into Tokyo, I talked about this, or Kansai, Osaka, or Nagoya, or Fukuoka, or any of the portals into Japan from abroad, the medications that you have are, quite frankly, might not be allowed to bring in, but there are exceptions to it, and we're going to go over that by looking first. Let's go right to, most of the people watching here are from the United States, so this is the bringing over-the-counter medicines into Japan prescriptions from the U.S. Embassy here in Tokyo. Let's go over this really quickly. Decisions on what medications and prescription drugs can be brought into Japan are made solely by the Japanese government. So again, the U.S. Embassy is telling you that the stuff that you buy in the United States might not be legal here because there's the FDA and then there's the Japan administration that approves the medications and the usage and the ingredients. And those ingredients differ from country to country. And if you're traveling to any country, no matter where you are in the world, if you're traveling abroad, you have to adhere to the rules and laws of the country in which you're going to. And sometimes we take that for granted because international travel has become so commonplace these days. The U.S. Embassy can't really do much to help you if you do get in trouble here. So again, make sure you are following the list. They even have links in the U.S. Embassy to the Japan Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, which is your authoritative source because it's in English on what you can and cannot bring into the country. They also, the U.S. Embassy, provided some graphs to kind of help you understand this for those that maybe need visuals. The certificate approval by the Japanese government may take several weeks to process and should be received before bringing the medication. So keep in mind, if you're booking your trip 6 weeks in advance, you should have no problem. In fact, some of the messages I received from people that were worried about this, and I got about 50 messages on just Instagram alone. Thank you. I don't know if I can reply to all of you, but if you're coming in with just prescription medications, in general, you can just stop watching right now. You're probably going to be okay. And just make sure that the prescription medication isn't over a month's worth. And if you do have more prescription necessary, let's say you're staying for 3 months, then you're going to want to have to fill in, you're going to want to fill in the form that is provided to you in the next, we're going to look at that form in a second here. But in general, if your prescription medication is on the list of banned substances, you should not worry too much just yet. If you need that, Japan's not going to take away your medication from you. I think this is really important to understand before you come into the country to help reduce the pain that you might have if customs searches you and finds this kind of stuff. Now there's an image here. I kind of downloaded it for you so you can take a look at it in a little bit bigger. It says travel smart, travel safe. It tells you what is prohibited to bring into Japan. In this little graph here, you can push pause and take a look at it. I think you know that what's illegal and what's not illegal just by common sense, but the over-the-counter stuff, that's a little bit more difficult to decipher here. So let's get into it. There's a form that you need to do if you have any of these things, including etenolol. Apparently that's for a heart medication that a lot of people are taking. This is one of the ingredients that is on the banned list, but that is only for importing it. It's not for personal use. So if you have more than a month's worth, and some websites say 2 months worth, I'm going to be conservative and say a month's worth here. I would say that you're probably going to be okay. Just bring the prescription, make a copy of the prescription. Again, these are items that are banned here in Japan. You can't buy stuff This is another reason why you'd want to bring it in. You can't buy this in Japan. You have to bring this from abroad in the dosages that you want, that you need for maybe your heart or for epilepsy. There were a lot of people that were quite concerned about not being able to have their medication here. That's not a worry. Just make sure you have it in the prescription bottle. You make a copy of the prescription, and I tell everybody, get your doctor's business card, because the more paperwork that you have, the better. Don't ask me why something is banned, Pig Bennis. I don't know. You're gonna have to ask Japan that. I'm bringing you the information that you need to help reduce risks of having. The only thing illegal about John is that he is too. Stop it, Sam. And we got to catch up for a burger soon, okay? Nice to see you here. I don't want you to have any pain when you come into customs and immigrations, and they do search people from time to time. And look, anyways, even if you get through customs, if you did get searched and have this on your persons, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble, especially if you got it through customs and they find it later on. So this just saves you a little bit of common sense trouble that you could have later on when you come into Japan. Let's put this here into the actual website that you need to go to. It's the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. Let's look at this paper. So this is the definitive source. You could trust a YouTuber, or you could just take a look at this. Let's go through it here. To import medicines from overseas is subject to control by the Pharmaceutical Affairs Law and the Customs Law to prevent a health hazard caused by defective products. Therefore, when you enter Japan, procedures should be done depending on bringing in the medications. Drug, quasi-drugs. You can bring your personal medicines into Japan once certain procedures are completed. This is because there are patients who need continuous medication and travelers who need medicines as belongings. However, when you bring narcotics and psychotropics described in 4, please note that importing them from overseas is subject to controls by other laws and rules. Personal usage is okay. The next paragraph is pretty clear. To be more specific, when you bring your personal medicines in Japan, you have to apply for so-called Yunya Kakunin Sho, a kind of import certificate, and receive it before you leave home and declare it to the officer at customs. And there were some people who said that the customs officers, when they brought this form, didn't know what the form was. They're probably new, but trust me, just because some people say you don't need the form, that's not your official source. You go to the government for your official source. When you bring in the next one, when you bring your personal medicines in Japan up to the amount described below, you do not have to apply for a Yunya Kakunin Sho. Instead, the officers at customs check the amount of your bringing medicines, and then you can bring them into Japan. So there it is in black and white. And if you want to print this out so you have a copy of it in case there is any discrepancy or they change the rules. This is something I learned over the pandemic. If they change the rules while you're in the sky, at least you have a copy of what was written from them. And I always find more paperwork is beneficial to your cause if you come into Japan and you have it in black and white, or in color if your printer is in color. So when you bring in personal medicines, up to the amounts described below. Let's look below now, which is usually for personal use here. They're gonna, oh, it scrolled right by there. I don't know if I can go back, can I? Yeah, there we go. Deadly and poison gas here. Okay, I'm gonna pause it here. Prescription drugs, up to a 1-month supply. So there's certain, okay, drug for external use, excluding poison, deadly poison, of course not. Up to 24 is up to 1 month. Injectable drugs and syringe for the drug, up to 1 month supply for pre-filled syringes and self-injection kits. For those that have this, they know what I'm talking about. Other drugs, quasi-drugs, up to 2 months supply. So there it is in black and white. 1 month if you're not sure, but 2 months if you're gonna be here for sure. And look, when you come into customs, they're going to check it and they're gonna see the supply, and they're probably gonna be pretty flexible on that. As long as you have the prescription and you have the documentation for it, it's not an issue at all. In addition to no product containing designated pharmaceutical ingredients, see the linked table. And this is the table that I've shown you before, right here. So if you click that link, that's what it's going to take you to. ingredients which are sold in foreign countries and regions with advertisement on enhancing cerebral function and other mental effects shall be imported unless use of such product is complying with doctor's prescription or instruction. There you go. So if you have a doctor's prescription or instruction, you're okay. Instruction to be written with his signature, address, and make sure, if you can, get a business card from him. I'm telling you, this is Japan. It will help your case if you should be stopped. However, it would be permissible for foreign travelers to bring such a medicinal product into, I can't see that because it's off of my screen, Japan by his or herself for the purpose of self-medication during his or her stay. Regardless of the description above, you cannot bring prohibited drugs, controlled drugs into Japan. So there's certain things that you can't bring. Methamphetamine is one of them, which is, I believe, in American drugs, but it's just completely banned here, so don't even bring that in here. Regarding details about application for Yunya Kakunin-sho, please check the Q&A for those who bring medicines into Japan. The link is in the description, so don't email me unless you want to say hi, which you can, but about this, I'm not going to reply because the link is in the description. Cosmetics, basically the procedures are the same as in the case of drugs and quasi-drugs. When you bring in your personal cosmetics into Japan up to the amount described below, you do not have to apply for Yunya Kakunin-sho. Instead, the officers at customs check the amount of your bringing cosmetics, and then you can bring them into Japan. So just don't bring a lot of them, basically. But it's in black and white right here, should you have an issue. Medical devices, I got a bunch of messages from this. Basically, the procedures are the same as in the case of drugs and quasi-drugs. When you bring your personal medical devices into Japan up to the amount described below, you do not have to apply for the Yunya Kakunin-sho. Instead, the customs officers check the amount of your bringing devices, and then you can bring them into Japan. Medical devices for household use, electric massaging tools. That's interesting that they use like a massager as one of them. One set. Disposable contact lenses. It's funny that they put contact lenses, so you can't bring more contact lenses than 2 months supply. That's interesting. I didn't know like that contact lenses were actually a quote-unquote medical device. So this is good for information to know. Should they stop you, they will bring this up. Narcotics and psychotropics. It is strictly prohibited to import narcotics and psychotropics in Japan, except in the case of prescribed narcotics and psychotropics for specific patient, bringing them with permission before entrance into Japan. When bringing your prescribed narcotics or psychotropics in Japan, you have to apply for permission by the Japanese government and receive it before you leave home. I've had reports that people were receiving their certificates within a week, but again, the U.S. Embassy in Tokyo says it could take up to several weeks. It just depends. And it depends on the season too, because summer is probably going to be a lot busier than right now. When you bring in certain amount of psychotropics and injectable drugs in Japan, you have to have a copy of the prescription and other related documents. Bring paperwork as much as you possibly can. Regardless of the description above, you cannot bring prohibited and controlled drugs in. Application for the certificate. There is the link in blue right there. It is now possible to apply online for some personal, which is good. So you can get all this online. And if you have any questions, don't trust the YouTuber here, because I'm not saying that because I'm a YouTuber. I'm saying that because this information changes, all right? This information, this is January 2024. If you're watching this in 2025, the information may change. This information may change tomorrow. So I want you to do your homework and understand that when you bring in prescription drugs or over-the-counter drugs to any country, not just Japan, it could be anywhere around the world, you need to know the laws. Bring paperwork for insulin. Yes, bring paperwork for everything that you think is necessary. Look, if it's a medication and you're prescribed it, bring the prescription, bring the paperwork, bring the doctor's business card. You should have a relationship with your doctor where you can get his card. And if you have trouble at customs, you flip out the card and say, this is my doctor's business card, because we respect that in Japan, a business card. Show them the business card. It has a phone number and the address on there. It also has it on the label, but I want you to go further than what you need to do. Whenever you come to Japan, in particular Asian countries, do more than you need to do. It's just, like, I print out all the documents. I have a folder that I travel with. I have in black and white. After the pandemic, the rules changed for some travelers in the air. But if you have a copy of everything on arrival, you are in the clear, and maybe you don't need it. And that's the best case scenario. and in that case, you can have your kids draw on the back of them in the hotel room. I don't know, but always be prepared. In particular, if you are bringing in a lot of drugs, if you're older or if you have conditions, then this is something that you're probably used to, and everybody is different. For the vast majority of people, this is not an issue. But I want you to be ready and understanding of the laws of Japan, in particular for first-time travelers that are coming here. Is that clear enough? Here's the paperwork here. I think we could go through it. This is the Yunya Kakoninsho. It's not very long. It's 3 pages long. You can apply online, or you can just print it out. You want to maybe have the doctor sign off on this, explain it. Let me see if I have the Q&A here. Let's go over the Q&A really quickly. I appreciate there's a lot of people here in the comments. A lot of this has nothing to do with this topic, so I'm just going to keep going on because this is important information for a lot of people. For those who are importing medicines into Japan, let's just go over their Q&A. This is in their PDF from the government of Japan. This should bring in everything. In the case of bringing in medicines, please read from questions 1 to 9. This is very government. For sending medicines, please read. So you can send the medicines to yourself as well, or have somebody send it to you. If you need them, then they're going to need to see this. Can I send any prescription medication into Japan from abroad? You can send any prescription medication into Japan without any special procedures, on condition that 1, you bring it only for your own use. 2, it is not any prohibited drug in Japan such as methamphetamine. 3, it is cold outside. 3, it is not any especially controlled drug in Japan such as narcotics. Quantity is up to 1 month's supply. It is not permitted to send psychotropic drugs. And again, like, here's the list. And if you have any questions, send them an email. I heard that they do reply within a few days. Send them an email if you have any questions. You can send it in English or any language, and you'll be okay, good to go here. Samuel Robinson's, for ADHD medicine, is Concerta okay to bring? I'm not sure. I don't know that medicine. But again, if it's on this list and you're bringing it for personal use and have a prescription for a 1 month supply, then it's okay. If it's in, that's going to be my answer. I appreciate that. I'm pointing you in the right direction here because, again, like, this information can change before your trip. So I want you to get it from the source. I'm going over this to be as helpful as possible because people are asking me questions, and a lot of people aren't Googling this. And I'm happy that people trust me to give them the information. How can I bring more than 1 month's supply for prescription? Champagne Sumo writes in here, when we come to Japan, do we need to bring your family some presents? No, please don't. But if you do, I appreciate it. But you don't have to bring us anything. A hug is enough. We're happy to have you here. You can bring in more than 1 month's supply of any prescription medication if you apply for the so-called Yunya Kakuninsho, a kind of certificate. This is what is the most confusing to me because, as I said, like, the documentation said up to 2 months for other quasi-drugs, and yet here, the answer is 1 month. So it's a little bit confusing to me, so print out that documentation and show that you were a little bit confused about it. Always print out stuff and bring as much paperwork as you can when you come into Japan. It really does help your case. It also makes you look like you're prepared, all right? You don't go in, always be prepared. How can I bring any injection or injector only for my own use into Japan with me? If you import medicines with syringes with them, at the same time, 1 month supply, you need the Yunya Kakoninsho. So if you have more than a 1 month supply for most of this, the answer seems to be just fill in the Yunya Kakoninsho, and it's all okay. You can send it to them by email. They'll respond with a certificate. You just hand it to the customs officer, and you're in the clear. You don't have to worry about it. How can I receive a certificated Yunya Kakuninsho? It's so cold, I'm having trouble with my mouth. You have to submit the application documents by email in the PDF format. If you don't have an email address, post it or fax it. Yeah, we have got fax here. If the pharmaceutical inspector can confirm that your application documents are complete, she will send you a Yunya Kakuninsho by email in the PDF format. Print it out, bring it with you. Or make sure and by the way, Make sure you take a screenshot or save it on your smartphone so you always have a copy digitally just in case. Because sometimes we forget stuff on the plane or leave it behind or it's in the taxi or something happens. What kind of documents are required in order to apply for the Yunya Kakonin when I bring medicines with me? Here's a list. The following documents are required. Import certification, confirmation application form, 2 copies of the document. Look, they just love paperwork. Just make a bunch of copies. Exfoliation of the product. Again, what is that drug? What does it do? Sometimes you have to print out what the drug is for them to understand it. If you, again, have paperwork, go a little bit further than you normally would. Copy of the prescription or direction for medication. How many times a day do you take it? What did the doctor say? Document indicating arrival date and place. Return envelope. This is for the application for the Yunya Kakunin show. To which office can I submit application documents for the Yunya Kakunin show by post? And they have the Narita and Haneda airport address right there. There's also a phone number and an email. Use the email. Write them in English. Don't write me. Write them. They're the masters of Kakunin show, the Yunya Kakunin show, and all this information. And they're happy to help you because they want to make sure that you have this information. They want you to come to Japan, but they want to make it as easy for you, and that's why this service exists. The Yunya Kakunin show is the import confirmation of medication issued by the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. You have to bring the Yunya Kakunin show with your medicines in order to show it to the customs. Whew, there's a lot of information here, and there's more Q&A here. I'll put a link in the description for this. I don't think you need me to go over it in gruesome detail, but that's the form. It's 3 pages long. It's cold out here. It is probably a good idea to have generic names of the medications. Yes. As I recall, the prescription or doctor letter should be translated into Japanese. It's helpful, and you can translate it in Google Translate. Again, if they make a mistake, it could be an issue. But I don't think you need to translate it and have it certified and all of that to bring it in. They should be able to have this capability at the airports. But then again, if you have the ability to translate it and print it out, then do it. Always go a step further than what you need to do if you can, just to be safe. And it shows you that you went a step further and that you're somebody not to mess with. All right? Don't mess with me. I went 10 steps further. I'm playing a chess game with you. I'm thinking 10 steps ahead of time, right? Those are the people who usually win. So in the majority of cases, all right, and I wanted to go over this information with you guys because of the shortages that we do have with drugs here. You're going to be fine. But I think you need to be prepared, and you always need to continuously check the conditions of the country in which you travel to. It only takes a couple of hours for all of the countries. If you're doing a backpacking trip, just go over the list, print out some stuff, or download them as PDF, put them into a Dropbox or another cloud service so in case you can get to them. You can always have those documents online somewhere as long as you have a smartphone or a computer. If you need help and you're stuck at customs, you have a backup copy of it, and that's so valuable to have in the case you do get in trouble. And if you are traveling with a lot of medication, you're going to want to do this anyways because you know that a lot of countries, in particular Asian countries, have very strict drug laws, and you're going to want to cover all of your bases with the proper forms. It's not a problem to bring in these things for personal use. They're prohibited from being sold in here, but you're going to need them because your doctor prescribed them to you. And Japan's not going to take this away from you. They just don't sell it here or import it here. But you can bring up to a month of for your own personal supply. And if you have any questions, again, I'm telling you this from the document. You can print it out. But if you have any questions, before you leave, confirm this yourself and email the Yunya Kakunin Show people. Just email them. It takes you like 30 seconds to type out a question and get it from them, and don't get it just from me. I'm pointing in the right direction. And I think that that's going to be really useful and save some people a lot of time. All right. Today's a really chilly day. Does John need a beer or sake to keep warm? Yeah, but I don't want a hot beer. I'll take maybe a hot coffee. We have a beautiful day. The blue skies here in Tokyo. There's a sky tree. I was here yesterday. That's the Chuo Ohashi that goes across. In fact, if you just take this bridge 3 minutes by taxi, you're at Tokyo Station. And this is a beautiful area to come and hang out. I recommend that if you are in Tokyo nearby, come out here, get a bento at one of the supermarkets, take a walk around the river, watch the boats go by, and at that point you can sit down, and it's like a really good point where the Sumida River branches out, and in the summer it's pretty lively out here. A lot of people, a lot of parks in the area, great for kids. My backyard. David Shadoff writes in here, Yunya Kakunin is needed for anything longer than 30 days back in the summer. Not sure if it's changed since then. Yeah, the documentation says up to 2 months for everything else. But again, I'm conservative when I say this. I would plan on 1 month and a few days. And if you know you're going to be staying in Japan for 2 weeks, you're probably going to want to bring 3 weeks of medication just in case a typhoon hits or an earthquake and you just can't get back. You always bring a little bit more, because if you got heart medication, you better do that, because you can't get this stuff here in Japan. So you want to bring a little bit more. If you need to bring in 2 months worth, then you probably need to get that Yunya Kakunin. But don't, somebody wrote me, can I just bring the bottle? If you've got like a 90 days of pills in the bottle, don't bring that. Bring enough. Don't overdo it to the point where you could get in trouble. If you don't need it, don't bring it. But bring a couple of days extra, and the immigrations and the customs are not going to fault you for bringing in 3 or 4 days, because it is known that in the summer, Japan has typhoons and flights can be canceled, and it could be 72 hours before you get on another flight. It's a known thing. So, you know, definitely bring enough heart medication, but don't bring it for a 3-month stay. That's without the Yunya Kakunin. And if you get that Yunya Kakunin, which is a painless procedure, you're just filling in forms, then you can bring in your 3 months, and then you would be okay. Does anyone know if suboxone? I have no idea. You know what? I have no idea. There's your list. 25 things here. If it's not on the list, it should be okay. Know the generic names as well, because there could be generic names that are part of these 25 ingredients. Just do your homework, because I don't know. I take no medicine. I take vitamins, that's it. The only medicine I take is like ginger, garlic, too much of that, onions, which Kunai hates. But these are the things that are 25 ingredients that are banned in Japan. But if you have a prescription, you're okay. If you don't have a prescription, don't bring these in, all right? If you don't need to, don't bring any of these things. Don't bring it in for anybody else either, because you can get in trouble for that. There you go. And again, the Q&A, I don't know if I linked this to the description. This is from the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. There's a Q&A. Look at this. I'll put the link in the description if I haven't already, but the link for everything is already there. So you just have to click the hyperlink that's in the link in the description of this video, and you'll be able to get all of your information. All of it. And if you're not sure, this is yesterday. I went through Matsumoto Kyoshi, and they do have some flu and cold medication. They did stock it a little bit. I'm not sure if they have supply after this. There's not a lot, but this is what they had. And there's Contact and a couple of other brands which might be familiar to some people here. There's a runny nose medication. I suggest asking your local pharmacist for help if you're having difficulties filling out the forms. That's awesome advice. Yeah, if you don't want to ask your doctor, you can ask your pharmacist. In particular with the names and the generic names of the drugs, cover your bases if you need to if you need to bring in drugs. And if you don't see it on the list, you can take that list to the doctor and ask them, is what I take on this list? And then they'll be able to help you out with that, because, you know, and here's another. I went a box drop down there. 4,000 yen for that. Here's some more medicines, 2,000 yen for that. This is more like cold and stuffy nose and this type of drugs. These were not on the shelf for the longest time. This Contact is something that seems to be pretty popular with people. they weren't on the shelves for a long time because they're just sold out. And now they're back again, so that's good. Kanai went to the doctor. She's been having a cough and like a lot of mucus buildup from a cold or flu that she had a couple of weeks ago, and it was a few weeks ago now. And she's been at the doctor 3 or 4 times, and the doctor can't prescribe anything because there's no prescription medication. And he said that there's over-the-counter stuff now available, and the government's been pushing really hard, but again, like, supplies are limited. It's not people are hoarding, but also the tourists are coming in here, and tourists are buying and hoarding it and taking it back to their country. So that's another thing. This isn't a Japan problem, by the way. This is a worldwide problem, and there's a drug shortage in a lot of places for cold and flu, in particular this season, which is really hard hit. So I recommend, actually, I'm not going to recommend it. Do what you want, but I'll tell you what I did. I got the flu vaccine, and it was pretty effective this year, because I'm pretty sure I caught the flu, and I felt it, and the next day when I woke up, I felt fine. It seemed like the vaccine did its job. I can't know for sure, but it just seems like I had antibodies, and I got the flu vaccine at the end of November, so I was very high antibodies from it, and it seemed to do its job this month, this year. Sometimes the flu vaccine is useless, and sometimes it's pretty strong. It's pretty good, and I think this one was pretty good. So that's my personal take. But if you don't want to get it, don't get it. But when you think about the traveling, the last thing you want to do is to get sick. And anything you do to stay healthy is good. There's a pretty impressive cough drops out there with menthol and stuff, but maybe that would help Kanai comfort-wise. Yeah, we have some things from the U.S. Lozenges and stuff. I bring that every time. But nothing major, and I mean, she's got asthma, and it's just really when she gets sick a little. It's a little bit tougher than when I do, so I have to be mindful of that and more patient with her getting better. It just takes a little bit longer. Leo gets over things really quickly right now, and I think that him getting the vaccine was a pretty smart idea, because he's at a preschool. Called Hoikuen, which is, I guess, like a daycare preschool, but he's playing with kids all the time, and they're getting sick all the time. So he needs to be strong as possible. But my personal opinion, I thought this year's flu vaccine was pretty effective here in Japan, and I'm glad that we got it. Let's see here, one last question. And again, this is social media, so leave your comments below and I'll try to answer them or point you in the right direction. We have a Discord server with about 17,000 people, a lot of people living in Japan, not 17,000, but a lot of people living in Japan. They'll be able to help you and answer your questions as well. You can go there 24 hours a day. It's free, Discord server. It's like a forum, and it's becoming more and more popular. I've been doing it now for 5 years, and I'm kind of glad that Katayama got me on to this a long time ago. So thanks, Katayama. And thanks, Nightbot, for posting the link there. Thanks, moderators. If you want to support the channel on Patreon, I do appreciate that too. I have to promote it. I sent out the postcards last week, so they should be arriving. But if you're interested, I will be happy to send one out to you. I'm right now looking. Where did I put it? I got a copy of it so you can take a look at what, oh, here it is. This one's postcard's pretty cool. Right there. This one's postcards. It's the thumbnail plus a bunch of other toys from the last episode of Only in Japan main channel. I do edited videos as well. And this one with Matt Alt, who's the author of Pure Invention. We went over and looked at the toys from the 1950s to 2000. This is the toys of our childhood. A lot of them surprised me. And he found Nintendo's first toy called the Ultra Hand in this episode, and it's in there actually on the top, this in the yellow box, this really crazy magic hand that extends your reach by like 10 times or something. But it's all in this postcard, which I will send to you with a Japanese stamp and a little postmark, and it helps the channel, and I really appreciate it, guys. And yeah, I'll see you in another live stream tomorrow. I'm gonna go and get that coffee. Thanks, Champagne Sumo. I'm gonna go and get that coffee warm up right now. It's a little chilly. Then get back into the editing booth, and which is my desk, and try to get the next couple of videos out there for you. I'll see you tomorrow in another live stream. Oh, just a note, Wakaki-san's interview from that toy episode will probably be going online tonight or tomorrow as well on Only Japan Go. It's a full episode, and he talks about Toys R Us and the toy industry and Santa Claus being a yokai or a monster. Like, how does this freaky creature get through the chimneys? Like, Japan's and his experience selling toys for the last 50 years in Japan. It's pretty incredible. His feedback. So I'm looking forward to posting that and hearing your comments. The full interview on Only Japan Go with me and Matt Alt questioning him and having a lot of fun in Hokkaido last month. All right, everybody, take care. See you tomorrow. Mata ne.